Hi, everyone. This is Sebastian Traeger, Managing Director of Reliability Center, and welcome back to another episode of Reliability 4.0. As always, we're on a mission to make the world a more reliable place. And today, I'm really thrilled to be joined by Kendra Moreno and Matt Villardibo of JLL. Welcome, Kendra and Matt. Thank you guys for joining us today.
Absolutely. It's great to be here.
Great. Well, before we dive in, let's just get to know you both a little bit. So, Kendra, tell us a little bit about your background. How did you get to kind of where you are in the reliability world?
By a very unique route, I would say. I'm originally a Bachelor of Engineering, Electrical Engineering, and I went to Samsung Austin Semiconductor out of school. So into a very high volume, high quality manufacturing environment. And we had equipment there worth $100 million or more for some of them. So I was a photolithography process engineer. So I did a lot of work writing pre-task plans for maintenance that would happen on the really expensive pieces of equipment. Not the maintenance itself, but what happens when you bring that equipment back from maintenance and how to qualify it back into the manufacturing process. And I kind of ended up on an innovation team because there was a lot of areas where we can have efficiencies in the factory and just generally doing things better. And so I learned that I was doing reliability and I didn't have the language for it yet. So when I applied to the role at JLL, they taught me the language, and I realized that I had kind of been doing this all along. So I worked directly with clients for a few years, and now I'm the AMRA lead for our reliability and asset strategy platform.
That's great. And what about you, Matt?
So I was actually kind of born into this industry. My dad, Bob Villardibo, is one of sort of the forefathers of vibration analysis. He had a balance shop and a vibration analysis business down in Tampa called Vibra Analysis. And he started doing vibration in the late 60s. And so when I was old enough to be able to go on site, he put a CSI 2110 in my hands and had me collecting vibration data at power plants and cement factories and the phosphate mines and places like that. You know, I was an old school data dog for the longest time out there just collecting data. And I don't think my dad necessarily really wanted that as a career for me. So eventually I left the family business, struck out on my own, went and worked for Allied Reliability for a good long time, learned a lot over there. They value learning and the certifications. I was really able to sort of cut my teeth, rack up certifications, pick up a lot of knowledge, and sort of flesh myself out more as a reliability pro than just a vibe guy. Time marches on, and taking a gig over in Saudi Arabia where I was able to sort of help build a program over there. And that was the real career game changer for me. I was able to really just kind of go show what I could do. I had a great manager named James Wheeler over there who really just helped me grow, and he really encouraged that. And, you know, I wouldn't be where I'm at today without those opportunities and people like James. So eventually I end up back in the States, end up working facilities management companies exclusively, and float back into the realm of JLL. Found myself without a job, and Brendan Russ reaches out and says, "Hey, I got a role for you over here at JLL," and the rest is history.
Love thinking about, the dinner conversations you guys must have had growing up about vibration analysis, just trying to think about that. But no, that's neat to hear that you've come from a family that really values and has been really connected. What are maybe three of the key aspects that you pointed out? What is maybe the top things? And maybe you can each share one and kind of go back and forth on key things folks should know about how reliability engineering best practices specifically around maintenance.
As part of the reliability program, I can try and speak to some of the things that I know that we do that probably went into that. We have really great SMEs that we keep on our platform, right? We're a centralized platform within JLL, and we send our reliability engineers out to accounts. So I think that centralized area of expertise is one of our key components of our success. So all of our reliability engineers have this core group of SMEs and each other that they can come back and rely on, and that helps them establish reliability programs even when they may not have all of the knowledge in one particular area. Somebody on our platform does. I will also add that we have some really great standardized processes around criticality, and we have continuously developed the tools and the inputs into that process so that the way we do criticality is standard and acceptable, right? So we're not just throwing numbers at things. It's really objective, and it's a very understandable scale that has real input into decision making. We also have really great risk-based maintenance strategies.
Matt, how would you kind of expand on that?
So I can tell you that I'm one of those subject matter experts that Kendra talked about. I'm
Okay.
the subject matter expert on PDM and CBM. I can tell you that we have written standards for how we execute our PDM and our CBM. So when I have an RE that calls me and says, Matt, we sat through the training, how do I do ultrasound at my site? Well, I got a written standard for you. So, and here's how that executes. And we do internal trainings, certification trainings in the predictive technologies for our in-house team. That way it allows for the uniform application of those technologies. We know that every site within our portfolio is going to go execute infrared, vibration, ultrasound the same way because they've been taught the same course material by the same instructor, yours truly.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to go do that the way they've been taught, the same curriculum, the same instructor. And it's coming from a real world practitioner. That's sort of what differentiates us. I'm not a salesman who's up there trying to shill things, imparting wisdom and knowledge, getting our guys learned up. And also the diffusion of knowledge that exists within our company. I've come from places where I'm the sole source of knowledge, and that doesn't happen at JLL. We've got the most CRL black belts any company out there could have. We've sort of cornered the market when it comes to expertise within that realm. So that makes a world of difference. We're all sort of speaking the same language. We don't have to worry about talking over each other's heads and do they understand what the words I'm saying to them. So that makes a huge difference. We come together in meetings, when we meet separately on individual issues, we're all talking to each other in a language that we can understand.
So for JLL, I'm assuming most of the work you're doing is on behalf of your clients. Is that accurate? So
Yes.
they're bringing you all in to serve their maintenance needs, and one of the value adds you provide is also the reliability engineering component, or is that kind of built into everything that you're working on?
Correct. So JLL, you might be wondering why a real estate company has a reliability engineering component. We do have the work dynamics division that does integrated facilities management. And so the reliability engineering team is a part of that service that gets offered. So 100% of what our team does right now is on behalf of our clients. We are a service provider.
Which I think is great. It's really helpful to kind of think about. You all obviously see then specifically goals and metrics across these different organizations that you work with. So by and large, in the real estate world, what are the core metrics from a maintenance and reliability perspective that they're really solving for? Because a little bit different than like
in the prep, and I was excited to answer
it.
Great.
I was
this is such a point of discussion for all clients, right? KPI is a really great buzzword. We always want to put in KPIs so that we can measure towards something. The best KPI that you can establish is one that actually achieves a strategy. So I will talk until I'm blue in the face about just putting up random KPIs and how they won't help you, right? Because then all your engineers are going to do is perform to a KPI. So I almost want to say like the best KPIs are the ones that really work backwards from a business strategy. So I never just come with a group of KPIs and I say, you need to measure this, this, and this. It's got to connect to a business strategy or it has no purpose and you might as well measure nothing.
And so, yeah, so when you do that, give me an example again in the world that you're in, like walk through that. Here's the business strategy that leads to this KPI, which leads to this, very specific thing that we can work on or measure. And Matt, feel free to dive in if you've got an example.
Yeah, I'll let Kendra flesh out something, but for me, something that I always push on people, and it'll conform to what Kendra's saying, is mean time to repair.
Would you like that one? I like mean time between failure as a KPI to talk about because it usually connects, right? The business strategies revolve around profit and sometimes sustainability. Say your business strategy is related to sustainability. I want to hit net zero carbon emissions by 2030. And so you work backwards from that and you say, okay, maybe a relevant KPI to this. First of all, where am I today? Not in my carbon emissions, but in my ability to measure that metric. And so you say, okay, I have a whole lot of data and I am not really doing a great job today of tracking my refrigerant. So my KPI needs to revolve around how accurate is my refrigerant information. And that feeds my business strategy of sustainability in one way, right? There's a lot of KPIs we can talk about, but you can't always go for those really high performing KPIs. MTBF is great. Do you have what you need to measure it? And is it a reliable metric, right? So if you're trying to get to MTBF, but today your work orders don't have failure codes, there's no value in that, right? If I don't have assets attached to my work orders, how is my MTBF going to give me any real information?
I really appreciate what you're saying. I always tell people like every business problem starts with accounting. You need to figure out like where's the data and how do you systematically capture it before you can start analyzing it or making decisions. And so, you're effectively saying, hey, here's our business strategy. What data can we track? Are we even tracking it? Now let's try to do things that are actionable against that data or against those business programs. And Matt, so when you're doing, kind of in the vibration, as a vibration analysis expert, what are some of those key KPIs? You mentioned mean time between repair, but what other things are kind of important to you?
I mean, so for me, I'm always trying to drive the folks to get that 45-day to repair deadline. That's like a key marker. When you're always sort of driving that, they're focused on getting things replaced and repaired in a timely manner. And they're not stuck in a situation where they're getting that, what I like to call unplanned rapid disassembly. Kendra makes a great point. Mean time between failures is also one of those critical ones. And it's super easy to track those sort of KPIs. You can do it with a spreadsheet. If you have a good CMMS system, you can take advantage of that. It really depends on like the maturity of the site and where they're at with things. I mean, it's 2026 and we're still kind of talking about stuff that we were like trying to figure out in the early 2000s. I mean, in my experience, I come from the industrial world primarily, and facilities is still, they're lagging about 10 years behind the industrial world. They didn't see that immediate value, mainly because facilities aren't necessarily kicking out widgets like the industrial
Right.
world. So they were always they could always justify manufacturing profit margins to drive that sort of thing. But now facilities, they see the value in, uptime and keeping the facility comfortable, and they're using KPIs in a unique way to sort of drive their maintenance activities, but they're a little behind still. And so we're trying to bring them into the, modern era.
I actually like working in industries that are a little behind because I feel like you can predict the future, right? You're like, I know in 10 years what this world's probably going to look like. So let's kind of help you get there. How do you all use, obviously there's a question we ask everyone because of what our company does, but how is root cause analysis a part of the work that you all do on behalf of your clients?
It is part and parcel of what we do. So we have a standardized template and approach that we like to take, right? So we also have an SME who conducts trainings on how to do really thorough RCAs. So I will add that not everything needs to be an RCA, right? So that's the first step when we get to a client is, yes, we do RCAs. Not everything needs a reliability engineer to do the RCA. So we develop some framework with them to help understand, okay, when is it an incident response versus when do we need an RCA that really pulls all this information together, right? Because our RCAs are a formal report, right? This is not a workshop where we're like, okay, I think it was this valve. Okay, fix the valve, move on. This is I'm going to put together a really thorough problem statement. I'm going to interview everybody who had anything to do with the repair or the downtime. I'm going to collect all of the equipment's history. I'm going to collect all of the manufacturing specifications, and I'm going to do multiple forms of some root cause tool, be it Ishikawa or 5 Whys or fault mapping, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Because when the reliability engineer gets involved, the idea is that it's either multiple failures and previous attempts have not worked, and so now we need a real deep dive, or it's a failure that's occurring across multiple types of equipment, and so we need to figure out why this is happening elsewhere and do some form of defect elimination.
So it sounds like this is like a built-in component of the value that you're providing to folks is to, I mean, even the way you went through, like we like to go through this process, even to figure out what the best tool is for the job. And then once we decide, yeah, we need Ishikawa or some sort of fault tree or a deeper dive, then let's go ahead and do that.
And then
Great. Well,
another benefit of the centralized platform, we're all doing those RCAs and we share those lessons with each other.
That's great. Matt, going back to, you mentioned doing AI regarding vibration analysis. You said you did a presentation. It's very hard in this day and age not to at least bring up AI. And that's interesting, you mentioning, well, facilities are behind, but then there's AI. So how are you seeing AI being a tool that's, either A, already adding a lot of value vibration, or B, is kind of coming as a value add tool?
My whole presentation was about sort of like my journey towards acceptance of AI vibration analysis. It was a packed house for that presentation, which made me happy. But I always like sharing my journey. Humanizing this industry is important to me. There's more to this. So I like doing the sort of soft skill human side of this. So, sharing that I went from like, this is going to take my job to, no way this is going to take our jobs. It's a force multiplier. I like it. It allows you to like actually use your time for actual work. Chasing down silly things and getting bogged down in like minutia analysis, it's not real work. So the AI helps. I have an AI vibration analysis tool that I use for my routine job stuff, and that makes my job a lot easier. There's no way I could keep up with the higher level, dare I say, the more important things I need to do with my job if I had to like go through and actually analyze data the old-fashioned way like I used to have to do. I'm a big fan of it, and
yeah,
it helps. It can do those things. It's all about pattern recognition, and that's previous bosses, they always commented highly on my ability to analyze that vibration data, at a large facility, because I was good at that pattern recognition. I could just kind of click through that data and I would find, the pattern that didn't look right. And that's what the AI is really doing. It isn't, this isn't Skynet, and you kind of got to explain to people. People have a really warped sense of what AI is. It isn't a thinking computer. It's a learning system in a way. And if you teach it, it'll learn, and it can be a real tool to provide a great assistance to your day-to-day activities. So
yeah.
So that's really what my presentation was more focused on was, hey, it can be a struggle in the beginning, but use this as a tool. It's a force multiplier. It can help you, focus your activities on the things you should be doing, and, talk to your AI too. When it makes a wrong call, go in there, correct it, and it won't make that wrong call. Keep doing it. It'll actually figure out what it should be seeing there.
That's great. Well, I'm going to take that as kind of your last word on that. I mean, we could almost have you back on a whole podcast about how you're seeing AI use. I really like that, force multiplier as just a paradigm to think on, is like, hey, this is not it's going to put all the humans out of work. However, but I would also probably argue, hey, if you're not using AI in some way, you're missing out on an opportunity to really multiply yourself. And then Kendra, just as we think about wrapping up, I want to leave you with just kind of any last word. It doesn't have to be on AI, but just something related to reliability engineering that you'd love to pass on to folks.
Yeah, so I have to kind of wholeheartedly agree with Matt's AI statements about it. And I think just like in previous generations, there have been other technological innovations. If you don't adopt it and learn how to use it, it will phase you out, but that's how it's going to replace you, right? AI is not going to replace a human. It's going to replace a human who doesn't use AI.
That's actually a really good word right there. I like that. AI is going to replace humans who don't use AI, right? Where it's just, yeah, if you're not aware of, and obviously we're all learning, but like both the benefits, but also where it's just not as useful. And I like, Matt, how you said it's a learning system. If you teach it and train it, it's going to get smarter. And so that's to kind of connecting these two. If you're one who learns and uses it and teaches it to get better, you're likely going to be a bigger force multiplier than if you don't. Well, I really appreciate this time. Thank you, Kendra and Matt, for your time. Of course, they're with JLL, and they are thinking a lot about how to use reliability specifically when it relates to reliability and maintenance, specifically around real estate. And so that I think is a great category for us to be thinking in. And to all listeners here, again, we're really about helping reliability engineers and really anybody learn to take steps to use technology and making a difference in their work. If you're looking for RCA training, resources, materials, check out reliability.com where you can find a lot of that. If your company's looking to dig deeper into RCA, think about our in-house software, Easy RCA, which can help you do that. Well, that's all the time we have for today. Again, thank you, Matt and Kendra. Really appreciate your time. And
thank you, Sebastian.
Yeah,
Thank you, Sebastian.
and thanks everybody for joining us as we're on a mission to make the world a more reliable place. We'll see you all in the next episode. Take care.